Let's do this and try to pretend like we didn't record this whole thing yesterday, and then I forgot to tell Mark that he needed to be recording, and so we're redoing it again. Ted, tell us what this is.
This is Legacies of the DC Animated Universe. It's a webcomic that we do here on the Watchtower Database. We put out a couple issues over the last 5 years. It's been going for a little while.
That's a pretty accurate statement. A couple issues, 5 years.
Couple issues. The goal is to fill in the gaps in between the end of Justice League Unlimited and the start of Batman Beyond. I'm Ted Kendrick. I'm the lead writer on this webcomic. With us today, we've got James Strecker, the original artist on issues number 0 and 1 and a bunch of other ones in between.
I'm the artist for 50% of the comics so far.
And then Mark Martinez here drew the most recent issue, number 10, as well as issue number 7, which featured the Scarecrow.
I'm the artist for 50% of why it took so long for the last issue.
Today we're going through all the Easter eggs from the latest issue titled Anno Domini or Anno Domini. I say things wrong all the time, so I really have no idea
what it is.
I took Latin in high school. I almost failed it. The year of our Lord, right? That's why we have the year AD, and Batman is our Lord here in the Watchtower Database. Batman in the year 2019 retires, and we saw this play out in the opening scene from the Batman Beyond episode Rebirth. And a couple of issues ago, we actually portrayed hours leading up to that event. That one was really cool because we also published that chapter on the canonical day of his retirement.
This comic, it's definitely a passion project that happens when it happens. We do love to see that people are constantly asking when the next issue is coming out. I think the stories that we are going to tell with this comic will make up for the distance between issues.
I definitely write them knowing that I have to make the most of these 6 and 7 pages. People have waited so long between chapters and whatnot, and I want this next one to be full of as much stuff as I can possibly fit in the script. As the artist, both of you will take that and then just pump it up with even more background stuff and Easter eggs and stuff, which is awesome.
It's an Easter egg extravaganza.
Yes.
Yeah. So the cover was drawn by Bart Tyrannifesaurus. He's done a lot of amazing DCAU related work. Bart had inks on this done by his brother, Edward. And then we also had one of our Discord moderators, Den Tunes. He did the flat colors. And then James came in and did the composite effects. A pretty big team effort.
Yeah.
I like the classic look of the cover.
Kind of an homage to the Silver Age team-ups. One team on the left of the cover, the other's on the right.
Big splashy text and the who is the new king? Very old school. Also put in some paint dots, printer deformations.
I was relieved when you showed this to me in previews because I had not come up with a cover. I got nothing.
So page 1, Gotham City, May 18th, 2019. That's my birthday. It's so weird to me that I still look at that date and go yeah, that's 20 years from now, and not that's 2 years ago.
2 years ago.
The first 2 panels, purposeful nods to the Batman the Animated Series intro. Batman standing on the rooftop. At the end of the page, the lightning flashes. Oh, it's actually this costume. How cool.
Just so everyone knows, my original derpy face was accurate.
If you zoom in on Batman's face from that shot, he does have quite the interesting look. The explosion coming out of the bank, obviously similar to the explosion in that intro as well.
Can I just say this page was hard? I redrew this whole thing multiple times. The stupid Rise of
Sinzu.
The Sinzu communicator. I drew wrong 7 times. I went with a technique for the fire reminiscent of Robbie Reyes' Ghost Rider. I loved that fire effect, so I kind of studied it a bit to try and create something similar.
Even doing a big smoke blast or something, if you look at a DCAU reference, it's essentially drawing a big piece of gray cauliflower.
Yeah.
In motion, it looks like smoke, but then if you draw it in something like this, it's why is there just a big gray tree in the background?
We've never seen this version of the Royal Flush Gang before. We've seen a few others in the DC Animated Universe, the one in Batman Beyond. There was one in Wild Cards, and another one in the epilogue flashback.
Shh, we don't talk about that.
Is that the new hashtag? We don't talk about epilogue?
First rule of epilogue. 2 of them were characters in the Batman Beyond Royal Flush Gang. Jack becomes the king in Batman Beyond. 10, I guess we assume, becomes the queen just because the queen in this gang used to be the 10 in the epilogue. game. Ace and 10 are twins, and that comes from a reference from Batman Beyond Volume 2, where we learned that the Queen from the Batman Beyond gang does have a twin sister. Mark, tell us about your design choices for the Royal Flush gang.
Basically, I just drew what James told me to. De-age a couple of characters and age up a couple of others. But the one that we went back and forth on a lot was Godiva, Queen.
She's really reminiscent of that Godiva character from the Global Guardians. Hair that could whip people like she did in that episode we don't talk about.
When the illusion drops, James was like, it's a different person, and I argued that it was still the same person, just she wasn't as glamorous as she was before, because like her whole look was to look like Bo Derek from the movie 10. I wanted to keep her kind of reminiscent of that. She was maybe trying to recapture that, and then she has these wrist gauntlets that had tentacles that came out of it. You do see her wearing the gauntlets in the comic. We dropped that because it looked just a little too hentai. We'll just explain it in the video later.
Maddie had come up with basically the lineup of this gang in a Vanishing Point episode. What's the link between the epilogue gang and Batman Beyond? Bruce Wayne in that episode talks about how there's like a family lineage that we never actually see. Long story short, the king from Batman Beyond would have been the Jack, and talks about resenting the king of the gang that he was in, which we don't see here because this isn't the first time this particular Royal Flush gang has existed in universe, because we have a replacement king in Condiment King.
Yes.
Ted's idea, I guess, is that the original king was there, something happened to him, and they needed like a replacement king, and so now we have Condiment King.
He became more of a cuck as the creative process went on.
He was just kind of a normal, inept Condiment King at first, and then it became more and more of like, you're not our real dad kind of dynamic.
Maddie had the idea to bring Condiment King into this at all. It would have been kind of cool, I think, to have seen like other potential kings fight for this placement. Sewer King, maybe, or King Shark.
Condiment King, when I was reading the script, I was like, he's really, really fortunate. Not just to be king, but to be like hooked up with Queen. So I kind of leaned into the idea that he like made some changes to his lifestyle to get the pretty girl. Like he was eating healthier and decided to replace the ketchup and mustard with pesto and hummus. That's not a pickle on his head this time. That is an avocado.
His underwear is made out of 100% hemp.
Yes.
Do you think like his only vegetable intakes are the condiments?
I think Condiment King's got a poison ivy thing going on where he doesn't actually eat any of the things that he's too protective of condiments.
See, I was thinking he just ate condiments. Why did you make Mr. Terrific's gang bad guys?
Yeah, what the heck, Ted? Why did you make up this gang?
You know I didn't. They're from the Batman Beyond episode Joyride and another one that I can't remember right now.
Literally everyone forgot about this gang.
Not us. Some of our early Legacies plans had Fat T potentially being like a sidekick to Mr. Terrific, and
something went wrong.
As I called it, the syndrome.
The T's appeared on Batman Beyond years before Mr. Terrific was canon in the DCAU, like before we saw he definitely exists.
Yeah.
But there's never been any on-screen or off-screen like confirmation of a connection between them. They just happen to also just have big T's on their faces, and that seemed just like an obvious thing to do. We at least have a subtle reference in this of like, maybe at some point there was some sort of Mr. Terrific connection, and that's more than we ever got on the actual show. In the car, we've got a little GPS kind of thing. This issue took so long that the entirety of Batman The Adventures Continue came out during the time. I was like, I'll do a little nod to that, and I put the No Man's Land map on there. But I had a really hard time deciding which chunk of the map to put. Maybe the bank would be right here, but then there's just a big Helena Bertinelli's apartment. I'm like, well, that's not gonna work. When you think about it, it's like, why did the police need a GPS? Gang war going on at Nolan National Bank. Where is that again? I'm not sure.
The next panel, we meet Jason Bard. He's a character from Batman comics in like the 1970s, another detective type. Jason Bard did replace him in the comics, and now he's replacing him here in this issue. But for a moment there, before Batman The Adventures Continue came out, we were going to have this be Jason Todd Bard.
The Adventures Continue action figures were coming out. The comic had yet to come out. Clearly, these action figures aren't going to be actually canon to the DCAU, so we're going to make up reasons why we could incorporate their designs, because the designs are so cool. We'll have Red Hood not actually be Jason Todd, because that doesn't make any sense. Jason Todd couldn't possibly fit into the timeline. Originally, Jason Bard was going to look like you would have seen Jason Todd in the action figure with droopy eyes, wisp in his hair, and all that stuff. But then as soon as the comics started coming out, you're like, well...
But Jason Bard's his own guy, and so this is like pretty traditional Jason Bard.
I kind of just went with like a DCAU design of that basic design. Turtleneck, sport coat. That just screams detective.
We're on page 2 now. I think this is our punniest page. We've got Beyond Saving, Dead Man, Aced Him. We've got 10 points for execution, Spade a Spade, Fat Chance,
Heart attack.
Lunch Break, Ketchup, Relish. Almost every line of this is a pun.
It's comic books, James. There's a lot of fun stuff going on this page.
We see Jack pull out a sword just out of his
Ass.
behind.
Jack takes a swing of his sword on Batman and just like, that's his one move. And he just turns to the
He
lady.
misses completely, and there's, oh my god.
And he decides to like bask in it.
What do you think about that?
Yeah.
How I miss.
When Batman grabs Fat T and then he says it's Fat T to you, Batman says Fat Chance. Basically trying to channel that scene from The Watchmen where Rorschach's in prison.
This is an Easter egg no one would ever have
Yeah.
got if you hadn't explained it.
No.
So, I went pretty J.J. Abrams with the lens flares, action enhancing kind of anime like blasts of light, and I think it works for most of the times I used it. But Fat T hitting Queen, it just looks like for some reason that's producing light. He hit her so hard. I just always assume that anyone that works with After Effects, if they read this comic, they're just going like, ah, geez, James, calm down with the optical flares.
Queen and Condiment King are kind of similar in the fact that they were like manipulated by other villains to become.
There you go. That's how they found like love, you know?
I know that. I wrote it.
Excuse me.
Manipulated the first time to become villains, and then they kind of liked that, so then they stuck with it.
Well, I mean, there's two possibilities. Once you've been mind controlled, you can have relapses. Or the other possibility is the mind control brought out his true self.
Yeah, he's always had Condiment King inside of him. And now Queen sometimes does. Okay, next page. The Jokers. This is the first appearance canonically of the Jokers, according to us. They're led by Shiv from Static Shock, who was depowered at the end of this show. But again, he's like, no, but I like that. And he just keeps at the criminal life, I guess.
All these Jokers were just listed as like Jokers number 1, number 2, number 3. And then I left it to Mark to actually design them and figure them out. And I think it was Maddie who had the idea, was like, Shiv should be one of them too.
Yeah.
Much later in the art process, wanted Joaquin Phoenix.
Ted was like, can you just add one more Joker? And I'm like, yes. What is your address again?
Who are the other Jokers that are here in the background?
The Jekko Joker and the Captain Clown Joker. A couple of them I just went with themes, like a vaudevillian theme. I'd never seen a French clown in the Joker's gang. One's just basically based on Zatanna for no real reason. The last one was kind of based on a character that I had designed for my comic universe. I had like a character who was basically just an African-American Joker, but in his case, he kind of had a thing where he was like stuck in the 80s. See Every Little Step I Take Bobby Brown outfit on except purple. GCP 707, you had asked me about that. It's not Hush lol, but it is GCP lol in the sense that he's not really GCP.
The Royal Flush Gang essentially exists because of the Joker, and the Jokers exist because of the Joker.
Condiment King exists because of the Joker.
Batman obviously knows all of this. It pisses him off even more. Like, he died, like a decade ago, and I'm still dealing with this. Ted, you were mentioning you were restraining yourself from putting a damaged tattoo on him somewhere because,
We live in a society.
I mean, we sure do, don't we?
He's basically me if I exercise.
The resemblance is uncanny, I
Isn't
think.
it though? Yeah. The Zatanna magician Joker. She is shooting at the car with her magic wand.
Oh, I didn't even notice that. That's
Yeah.
pretty cool.
The last panel on this page, we see the bullet through the tie.
I think I do a bullet through the tie every time I draw some sort of bullet scene.
He really should have retired like 20 years ago. I kind of figure he held on for so long because of things like the near apocalypse of '09. Pick up the pieces a little bit. Now we're finally at a point where like, okay, I gotta stop. I'm 80.
I am too small for my own clothing. I really should retire at this point. Page, 4?
Which I think might be safe to say is all of our favorite pages.
My favorite to draw and the one that I'm the most happy with.
I was experimenting with some After Effects filters and clicking buttons and like, oh, exposed like a hole through his skin. Like, yeah, let's go with that.
And I love that second panel just for like the perspective of seeing through the steering wheel.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of a cool take.
That came from looking through endless pictures of how to draw two people in cars.
Inside of a car. Yeah, there's only so many angles.
That's the big reveal here on this page. He is one of the Imperium soldiers.
The Imperium's soldiers.
I still insist on calling them Imperium.
Well, I still insist on never talking to you. So.
But they never had an origin story in the DCAU. We first see them invading Mars like 1,000 years ago, but it's clear that they're not from Mars. They're from somewhere else. The 2019 set issues issues of Legacies with the Anno Domini or Domini, whatever.
Whatever.
That subtitle is like basically this sort of secret invasion Marvel story. These alien creatures impersonating a bunch of people in the DCAU. The final chapter of this Anno Domini like will give us answers as to what they want on Earth, where they're from. So I'm really looking forward to telling that story. This is the third alien invader that we've seen. The others were Snapper Carr and Veronica Vreeland.
And in each issue, they're destroyed by some sort of fire. Can you explain your headcanon of how this works with sunlight being their weakness and secret origins?
You know, fire emits light. So
yeah, I suppose it does.
Some kind of radiation that actually melts them. So
yeah,
everybody hates fire. Firewood should be melting Commissioner Gordon as well. At that
That's
proximity, it's easier than some convoluted way of having the moonlight bounce off of Gordon's extremely reflective glasses. And that particular panel of him, two-faced Picasso, the Thing style melting here, the heart exposure, that whole thing. That's my favorite panel in a while.
I think me too.
My thinking was that the Imperium soldiers had been holding their forms for so long. They shapeshifted as accurately as possible, right down to the organs. I liked the horror element to that scene, just leaned into that. In the script, Gordon breaks down so badly from this moment. I felt like it needed to be
heart attack worthy.
Yeah.
Also, one of my favorite things about the issue is the alien's face reflected in his glasses as Gordon's eyes. Good job, Mark.
Thank you. I only took a year to come up with that.
So let's move on to not as good of a page.
The Powerpuff Girls page.
Yes, not on purpose, but we could say we did it on purpose.
Yeah, I did watch a lot of Powerpuff Girls.
I did add another line on panel 2 that wasn't in the script. It was "This fight really takes the gravy."
It does kind of come out of nowhere. Like this horrible thing is happening to Commissioner Gordon off screen, and Batman's like, "Stay with me, talk to me, Gordon." And then he's just like, "This fight really takes the gravy." Like, shut the fuck up, Condiment King. There was a handful of discussion about what should be the thing that pushes Commissioner Gordon to finally retire. Gordon having a heart attack, no matter what the situation was always part of it. It kind of gave a little more poignance to Batman quitting because he has a heart attack. Okay, even he is too old to do this. He almost lost his best friend or whatever to a heart attack.
And the panel that we promise no one will misinterpret.
It's
Alien Gunk. My little brother read this issue and he didn't say anything about it, but then I like pointed it out. Yeah, he was very much like, I was not thinking that at all.
But now I am. Mark, you talked about making sure Batman was positioned in the panel in such a way where it does not look like he could have been part of that. Quick, like... Gordon, let me douse you. We skipped over Batman's thickness in panel 2.
I'll try to get that alternate version out for your video.
I popped in right when he was drawing Batman's ass in this panel. Excuse me, a little scrumptious.
Yeah.
I think we tone it back a little bit.
Page 6.
The page that was supposed to be the last page. But I said, hey guys, this comic's not taking long enough. Can I add an additional page?
Here in the hospital, we've got Bruce Wayne, of course, in the same age we see him in Rebirth, but then we have like Sam Young, who was Barbara Gordon's husband in Batman Beyond. Here he's Sam Younger. This Barbara is essentially New Batman Adventures Barbara Gordon with Batman Beyond Barbara Gordon's haircut.
Yeah.
She references getting her legs back. As of right now, we've never seen her have a Killing Joke style thing happen to her in the DCAU, but we do have plans in Legacies to kind of put Barbara through a Killing Joke type scenario and have to become Oracle. She becomes an asset to the Justice League in a similar way as like Mr. Terrific or Jean.
What happened to Mr. Terrific? Did it have something to do with the T-Gang? We'll never know.
Loved drawing Gordon in this issue. Elderly Gordon had so much personality.
Expression.
Yeah, there was so much you could do with his face. And he was the one that was experiencing like the really dramatic moments.
He was the main character. Yeah, absolutely. They specifically talk about the bat signal. Barbara thinks the Riddler smashed it to pieces a while back. Gordon remembers it was the Penguin, and that's a reference to Batman Adventures Volume 2. Bruce says that he heard it was a robot version of Gordon that fell on the signal, and that is a direct reference to Gotham Girls Season 3.
That was not in the script. I noticed the Captain Marvel-esque reference.
Yeah, Barbara's got that line that says higher, better, faster, stronger. Harder, better, faster, stronger is a Daft Punk song. It's still a reference to that, but I brought in hired to,
it's a reference to both
Captain
now,
Marvel.
basically.
Yeah, Gordon says he's he's writing a book. See him mention that again in the pre-birth issue. We see the next issue is called Chronicles, and that is, we're actually going to read excerpts from his book because his book is called The Batman Chronicles. Pretty close to being done.
That's
so
true.
It's coming out this year.
Yeah, so final page, we have a Batman Beyond signal, bat signal, that gets used for about a month. Sorry, guys, I quit. I paid for the bat signal anyway, so it's my fault.
You got that nice splash page at the end.
Which you could download on the extras page as a phone wallpaper.
When did this bat signal exist?
Right here.
Well, I think we got it. There's 3 more chapters set in this 2019 world. The next one, Chronicles, and then we have a chapter called Mosaic that brings back in Jon Stewart's character that was teased in the 2019 issue, and that one also features Wally West and Kyle Rayner. Last chapter of 2019 is called Mageddon, and that is being drawn by James.
The reveal of the final 2019 issue is that perhaps the Imperium is not the top dog of his species. Leave it at that.
A lot of awesome stuff coming up in Legacies pretty soon. We're spending a little time like in a universe that we love and telling original stories, and it's just fun.
Mark, plug your things. Tell people who you are so they can go find you.
I am Digital Jedi Master on YouTube. My whole thing is like trying to get people to understand that we all have different opinions on storytelling, what we think is good and what we think isn't, and that there's no real objective measure for that. You know, maybe we should stop putting each other down because different people like different things. I also do a podcast there called the Jedi Holocast, which the Data Boys will be guest starring on very, very soon-ish for the special Snyder Cut episode. You can look for me just about on any social media. Just search for Digital Jedi, and I'll be the guy with the blue lightsaber. Also, Instagram, Eon Press Presents. That is where you can see my original comic creations that I am working on.
Mark does a bunch of cool stuff that's not Legacies, so you should go look at it, is all we're saying.
Yeah. Oh yeah, this was my debut on the channel, so I gotta pimp this stuff because I'll probably never be back again.
Oh, don't say that. We're replacing Maddie with you. We just haven't told him yet.
Oh.
Thanks everybody for watching. Look out for more Legacies issues and more stuff all over the place. Have a good day.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Yeah, whatever.